And here we are.
There he is. How are you?
Happy Friday Fun Day once again, Mr. Kaufman. How are we doing today?
I am excellent. How about yourself?
It's going pretty well. Outside of the rain intensity going from torrential downpour to spitting at me back and forth, I don't quite know. But it's relief, right? Whenever the rain comes, it's relief from the 100-degree weather that we just had this
It
earlier this week.
is.
So I guess that's good.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, but no, I welcome the rain. I'm getting old. I'm getting old because I find myself standing at the back door with a cup of coffee, looking out. Oh man, we really need some rain. Oh man,
Farmer Jeff at the back door with the coffee.
that's right.
That's good stuff. Yeah, it's
All
it's
right.
interesting. Yeah, it's all interesting too. So we just went on a contract with another seller finance deal yesterday.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going well.
Another new
We
build. Another new
Yeah,
build.
another new build. This one's going to be pretty good. We both like this one better than the other new construction one we did last year. I guess yeah, the end of last year. So
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting. Repeat customer.
That's right.
So that's good, right? Word of mouth. That's what happens when you do when you have integrity. When you do what you say you're going to do, right? Then business just starts to repeat itself. So just pro tip, right? Do what you say you're going to do.
I also want to say that you've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this is my 11th year. And I don't know about you, but I never saw this coming. Never saw anything like this, meaning essentially what we have is an individual who has his own investment strategies. Uh,
Mhm.
and one of those is going out and building new homes. And he's essentially a note lord is
Yep.
a you know
Yes.
because he's then selling those properties to us, which then we become note lords because we're selling those properties to end buyers as well. I mean, it's all copacetic. We're all in on this. We're on the same page. He wants us to make money. We definitely want to set up the deal so he makes money. But I just never saw this. I've never seen this exact kind of strategy, and how this is all played out. It's just been, uh, I don't know. It's just a testament to, as we say, there's no two deals are the same. Although I will say, this deal is pretty much the same as the last one.
Because he asked for it to be. He goes, hey, why don't we just do the same thing that we did on the last
Yeah,
one?
yeah,
Okay, sold. Next.
yeah. No,
It was easy. Yeah, just as a side note, before we get into today's topic too, he is one of the easiest people to work with
hmm
that I have ever experienced in 20 plus years now, doing it from a seller side, and he is secretly savvy
yeah,
because on the other deal that we did with him, he sold the front end of that note and kept the back end.
yep.
You don't know how to do that. You don't even know where to market that unless you know what you're doing,
That's right.
right? So he is very savvy. So but and usually those people are harder to work with
Yes,
because they have particular parameters or they stay in this box or whatever
they have to.
of the deal,
Yeah,
but not so much with him. He's very easy to work with. So it's interesting. Yes, very interesting
yeah.
situation.
And I will say as well, the notes. I mean, I'm not going to get into note buying and note marketplaces or anything like that, but it is kind of a testament to the quality of the notes that are written because he had no problem,
Yep.
selling the
He had
front.
no problem selling it. That's
So,
right. Yep.
all
Yep.
right.
Yes. And we created that note too. So yeah, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It just goes to say, yeah, that our paperwork is quality, is reasonably high quality paperwork. So
Yeah.
yes, we'll be doing shameless plugs for that later. Now, on to today's topics. What do we have on board on tap for today, Mr. Kaufman?
Okay. So we're going to go kind of back to basics here just a little bit. Um, this, I guess, this podcast is really kind of geared towards more towards the newer crowd, people newer, maybe to a little bit newer to creative finance, and we're simply just going to break down. Because we haven't talked about it in quite a while, we're going to break down the question, answer the question, what exactly is creative finance? Like what qualifies as creative finance? And um, really, the goal behind this podcast is going to be to get people kind of out of their heads and back into making offers and doing deals and trying to remove that fear that some folks have of making maybe fear and misunderstanding, I guess, um, that people have about creative financing because it's what do they say? Keep it simple, stupid. I mean, you know, admittedly, creative finance can get there can be some nuances with it that you just have to know.
Yeah.
But I contend that the best way to understand those and learn those things is by doing. I'm just built that way. Um, so yeah, that's what's on board today. Is that on board?
On tap.
On tap. Thank you. Thank
On
you.
tap. Yeah, I like a little mango card on tap too later, but yeah, that's a whole separate thing. So you're saying that the title of this one, Unraveling Creative Financing, Don't Overthink It, is
Yep.
pretty straightforward as we're gonna go through
Yes.
that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I just take a second and talk about that analysis paralysis? We've said that term probably, I don't know, 100 times over the different podcasts, right? Analysis paralysis, and usually it's about analyzing and evaluating your deal. Like
Mhm.
I sit here and I look at it, and then I use this rehab calculator, and then it's like, okay, is that really the number? And then I use this rehab calculator, and 5 days later, I make an offer, and the property was gone 3 days ago.
Mhm.
So analysis paralysis. I keep overthinking it, overanalyzing it too. So that can happen with creative financing, as you alluded to just a second ago. Like overthinking. Okay, well, what's really subject to is the strategy, right? A creative finance strategy. What is the seller going to hold a note for me as a strategy or carry back? Is that a strategy? Like you can get into your own head, so to
Oh
speak, and just say, oh, well, I don't know enough about that. I don't know enough about this. I don't know enough about that. But what you said is exactly like, well, are you going to make mistakes by doing? Yes. Are the mistakes that you're going to be make irrevocable? No. Right. Which then lends itself to you should partner with people that know what they're doing that can help you with those sorts of things. Right. But don't overthink it, right? Just go and do sometimes. Like if you got a really great deal, then learn about it and do it, but don't sit there and get stuck in your own head.
Yeah. Yeah. There are essentially, I'm one of those people. I like to get down to the base or the very root of literally everything that any problem that I am presented with. Um, I tend to deep dive. If it's a real problem, I tend to deep dive and I get very, very granular with these problems. And essentially, there are there are basically three levers in all of real estate and finance. Period. And those three levers are price, terms, and timing. So, and if you are in the creative finance world and you're making creative offers, those levers are never easier to pull. Meaning, if you're dealing with a bank or if you're dealing with institutional money, those levers are extremely hard to you can't adjust many of those levers. Like you can't if a bank's
Only one really.
yeah, really, yeah.
The price, yeah. That you can't adjust the terms or the timing. The bank's going to set that, right?
Right, yeah, and even the price, the sometimes you
To,
can adjust that because
yep, because the
they're going
appraisal.
to offer you, they're going to give you a loan to value ratio, and
Yep.
sometimes it's just, I mean, they're just so inflexible. But with creative finance, if you're dealing specifically if you're dealing directly with a seller or a buyer for that matter, um, all of those levers are available to you, every single one of them, and That's what makes this. That's what makes in my book creative financing just so powerful, and I think it's why uh, everyone needs to have at least some basic understanding of what each of those levers can do for you. So,
Yes.
uh,
And it's been getting a bad rap. So let's just say that up front too. Just
yeah,
the whole kind of general term, creative financing, subject to wholesaling. We have a whole new wholesaling law here coming into effect in Missouri because people are asses, right? What else is there to say about it? They're taking advantage of people, right? Everybody in every industry, there's crooks. Even in the banking industry, there's crooks,
mm,
right? Every industry has their bad players and their bad apples. That doesn't make it illegal. It doesn't make what you're doing, as long as you're doing it properly and with integrity, right? You don't need a law degree. You do need to have understanding, right? But you don't need a law degree to do it. And attorneys, I'm sorry, I gotta get my soapbox just for a second.
yep,
So attorneys have a law degree. They have paid a lot of money and gone to additional schooling so that they can get quote unquote a law degree. Many attorneys, like many doctors, have a particular area of law that they focus on, right? Like you can be a cardiologist or you can be a podiatrist, right? You can be a real estate attorney. You can be an estate attorney. You can be a criminal attorney, right? You can do all those sorts of things. Even real estate, quote unquote, real estate attorneys don't necessarily understand everything about everything. They're people. They focus on particular things in their practice that they like, enjoy, and are good at. And
yep,
sometimes that does not overlap with what you're trying to do. So, case in point, we've talked about this before with title companies. Title companies are typically owned by attorneys, okay? Or they're underwritten with attorneys.
hmm,
Some title companies have attorneys that understand trusts, and some here in Missouri, because we don't have a trust law here, we don't have a specific statute about trust here in Missouri, and some don't. That's just the way it is. It
yep,
doesn't make your land trust illegal in Missouri. It just makes them dumb because they don't research it and try to understand the situation. And that's fine. They don't have to, right? But it's very similar here, right? Very similar here. Make sure that you know you don't need a law degree, but make sure that you understand what you're doing, especially like if it's a subject to deal. Subject twos have to have particular paperwork, right? We talked about that before. You do need to understand that, but don't let that get in the way of doing a good sub two deal, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think um, kind of the core understanding that we want to get across here is that um, there are many different creative financing strategies.
Yeah.
I say strategies is methods. Let's just
Yes,
keep it
types of creative financing.
correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, there's all kind. Subject to. I mean, really, it's just anything outside of pulling a bank mortgage.
Yes.
Kind of your cut and dry, which is where you know your folks who are writing cash offers. That's generally where they live. They're not. They don't generally get too creative with it, but the problem with that is that they generally pay the most for for the financing. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like over especially over time, um, and cash offers can be. I mean, they're great if you can get the right price. If you can get a really great price, that would be kind of the ideal scenario. If you can get the very best price, if you get a property that needs very little work for 50 to 70 cents on the dollar, great, that's awesome. But uh, that that financing is generally going to be more expensive than what we in the creative finance world are even used to. Like for example, the property we're picking up right now, we're essentially paying, or the interest rate that we've negotiated with our seller on this one is lower than is what, three-quarters of a point lower than the national average right now. I believe
Yeah.
that's
Yes,
correct.
it's lower. Yes, on a yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's slightly lower. You're correct.
So what I'm trying to say, creative financing is not necessarily a strategy. It's more of a mindset. It is it is finding ways and really thinking about how you can fund these deals. And like many times, this is not true all the time, but many times our deals are funded with absolutely no money out of pocket, like zero. We might front some cash, which we do. We actually do that kind of normally. We might put some cash up. We always get that cash back. So we're almost all the time. We're almost always $0 net out of pocket, and literally anyone in this business can do it. It's just like I said, it's a mindset. I was talking to a guy, and I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing all the time.
No, he's exactly right.
But I was talking to a guy about a month ago at a little birthday party, and he was up in arms. This is Missouri specific, and I know that we're talking about this wholesaling law, and he was so stressed out about this new wholesaling law because the law literally it's going to put some wholesalers out of business, which it probably should put some of those kind of people that are doing all the nefarious stuff out there. Probably should put them out of business. But he's a legitimate wholesaler. The guy does a lot of business. He's a good business owner. He's got integrity. And so I mentioned to him, I said, well, if you're so worried about this, and let me back up for just a second. The law states that in Missouri that you have to wait. Once you talk to the seller, you get in on that appointment, and the law requires a 2-week waiting period.
Yeah.
Requires disclosure, and then a 2-week waiting period before you can actually sign a contract, which is, that's one of the craziest. It's a pretty crazy law, to be honest with you, because
if you want to assign it, if your intent is to assign the contract, right?
Right. That's correct. Yes. Thank you. And it is crazy because a lot of homeowners don't have 2 weeks, so,
yes.
But so I mentioned to him, I just said, well, why don't I just solve this problem for you? Why don't you just close on it using creative financing? Why don't you just buy them, say, subject to? You can close on them, and potentially that could be the answer to this problem. And you could just see, his face went blank, and he's just like, oh, there's too much going on. There's too much paperwork, and I'm like, no, dude, no, it's not that way. Let me give me a call the next time you're in this situation, which is going to be soon.
Yes, very soon.
Give me a call and let's walk through this. I'll show you. This is not that difficult. It's not that hard. It's just you've got to stop overthinking this. It's not. It is. Creative financing in this situation is the ideal vehicle to handle this sort of thing, because if you're committed to closing and you can get the financing in place right up front, I just don't know how that becomes any more obvious that is the correct answer for this, or one of them anyway.
Yeah. But you better stop telling wholesalers that, or we're going to have too much competition for the sub-2 deals, right? So
yeah.
So wholesalers, some of them think they know subject to and don't know their head from a hole in the ground.
Yeah, see, that's another whole topic. That's why I would, this is why I offered to him, let's sit down. I'll walk you through this, and I'll show you how to do this right. So so everyone is, everything's above board, and there's full disclosure everywhere, and we minimize that risk that a lot of other people just they take on unnecessarily.
Yep. So. And I guess one of the takeaways we want from this episode too is keep things simple in your own mind, so then you can easily explain it to the seller, right? So when you say, okay, well, we have an option, that subject to is an option. Well, what does that mean? That means that I take responsibility to make your monthly mortgage payments. And then we have a whole list, right? That's a special little area. And then there's this whole list of what seller objections would be, or questions. Objections is a strong word. Typical standard questions like, my name stays on the loan. Like we've talked about that a lot in there, right? But keep it simple so you can explain that to them. Seller financing, the property, maybe it's free and clear, right? And so you just want them to be the bank saying, banks make a lot of money, right? Well, they do that from lending. Why don't you be the lender? and you keep that money.
Yeah.
Right? Like explain that to them. Or you can combine those two things. Like you could do a wrap, right? You could do a wrap. You could theoretically buy it for on contract for deed if you want to. But of course, when we acquire it, we want the highest level of ownership. So that would be the wrap, right? We do a wrap. So you just like three simple things to keep in mind, right? And again, don't right. The takeaway today is don't overthink it. Keep it simple. Now, there's a lot of nuance, especially with the sub two thing, maybe. But again, it's not that we're not sending men to Mars. We're getting a contract on the deal, and we're protecting the seller and protecting you, the buyer, at the same time. So that's what's happening.
And it's literally just, well, I was going to say your 10,000 hours. It doesn't take 10,000 hours to learn this stuff at all, but it does take a little bit of experience. Um, but I will honestly say it's it's not that much different. It's literally just setting up the financing side of the deal. That's it. That's all you're doing. You're not doing anything extra outside of a normal cash offer deal. It's just, where is this financing coming from? I can promise you, if you're using even hard money, even a lot of these hard money lenders these days, if you're using hard money to pay for a cash deal, some of these hard money lenders, it's much harder to go through their rigmarole and their underwriting to get a hard money loan than it is to set up a subject to deal.
Yes,
It is. I mean,
100%.
there are some. I have a hard money lender that I can call up right now and I can do a deal over the phone. Uh, the easiest deal that I've ever done. Now, it's the most expensive deal that I've ever done by far, or deals, because I've borrowed from him multiple times. Um, but if you want to get good terms with a hard money lender, it is way more difficult in many cases to have them underwrite you than it is to just learn this and do your own have your own library of documents that you use on every single one of these things. And
Yeah.
I'm not the shameless plug guy, but this would be that cue.
Oh, I just had it up there, but here, right
Oh,
there. There we go.
yeah.
So,
So
and also too, when you're again, not to get into how to talk with the sellers, that's the 10,000 hours before you get really good at talking
that's
with
true.
sellers.
That
But
is true.
remember, again, keep it simple. Don't overthink this either. Solve their problem.
Mhm.
In order to solve their problem, you have to listen and find out what the problem is,
Yeah.
right? I inherited this house and I don't want I live out of state. Whatever, right? Okay, well, let's solve that problem,
Do you
right?
need the
Solve
lawn
the
cut?
problem,
Do you
right?
need do you need the you need me to call the utility company? Do you need your lawn cut? I mean, there's all those little things that they can't manage in this particular situation that you're talking about. They live out of state. Well, they can't manage all this stuff. So, yeah, solving even just those problems, not just the inherited property problem, but all of the little details that go along with inheriting a property. That
Right.
becomes your job.
And maybe the problem is financial a lot of times, especially on sub two deals. I'm in arrears. I haven't paid in 6 months. I got the foreclosure notice. Like we talked about those deals before, and all of that too. So yeah, just just keep it simple. Don't. What's the problem? How am I going to solve the problem? And
Yeah.
offer options. Right. That's the whole thing behind creative financing, is options.
Yes.
Have that in your toolbox to offer options.
Yeah, I think that is the most important aspect of creative financing. Don't just get stuck in. If you get stuck in just making subject to offers, it's going to be like anything else. It's going to be. I think your kind of your close rate on those, your turnover rate and close rate on those, it's going to be probably equal to making cash offers. You can make 10 cash offers, maybe get one of those accepted, maybe. And it's the same thing. It's same thing with creative finance. If you're only sticking with one kind of offer strategy, and say it's subject to, you're going to have about the same rate. So creative finance is kind of an all-encompassing thing, and I think this is why it's so intimidating for people. They don't think people are just not thinking outside of the box. They're just not thinking about alternative ways to get their deals financed. And I don't know what that is, man. I really don't. I don't know if is that fear? Is that intimidation? Is it laziness? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
a lot of people have, again, it just gets a bad rap because it's like, okay, there's a lot of legalities with that. It seems like it's a gray area. It's not.
It's really not.
It's not a gray area. You could perhaps get yourself in a gray area if you are doing shady shit,
Yeah.
or you don't take the time to say what's the minimum amount of paperwork I need to do to protect myself and the seller on a sub two deal specifically, right? Like, it does require some paperwork. That's true, but again, we're not putting men on Mars, right? You're getting a property under contract, so just just don't take the eye off the prize, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
Get it under contract. Figure out the financing.
Yes.
That's it. It's real simple.
And maybe we should start saying we're seller financing experts as opposed to creative financing experts, right? Because that's really what we're doing, right? We're gonna acquire it with seller financing, and then we're gonna turn around and use seller financing for an end buyer, right? So
That's true.
we're really seller financing experts. And that just doesn't, because the creative, I think that's where it gets people
Maybe
creative.
that's
Oh,
it. Maybe
creative. So I'm outside of the box. That means I'm in a gray area legally, right? No.
do you know what? That's a really good point. I think the creative thing might be might be what's
The hang
holding
up.
people back. They're like, I creative, I could totally see that. Whereas if you say, I seller finance, I buy properties on seller finance.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe you've hit on something that um, is what that's might be holding people back. But I will say another reason that I think that creative finance, I'm going to continue to call it creative finance for now.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, that's the general accepted
Yeah, yeah.
term. Yeah.
But I think uh, a large part of this fear and intimidation that people have is they just take bad advice. They get advice out of Facebook groups and people that, I mean, that are just inexperienced. They just don't know. Um, they just don't know what they're talking about. I'll just say it that way. I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
and so everyone gets caught up about on the particularly on subject two. They get caught up on due on sale clause. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been out in Facebook groups and I've heard that. I've heard it. I mean, you'll see people in Facebook groups that clearly you can read their posts that clearly don't know the ins and outs of subject two, and then you'll see them say something like, "Well, that note's going to get called due. You're going to get due on sale. Due on sale is going to be invoked." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" So kind of wrap around there. There's just a lot of fear mongering around it. There's a
Yep.
lot of just flat out bad advice about it, and I think that confusion is what causes people to kind of, at least partially, kind of freak out and do some of these bad, nefarious things that we're alluding to
Yeah.
a little bit earlier. It's because it's almost like this is going to be a great. You're going to have to stick with me on this one. This is going to be a crazy example because it's not related to real estate at all. But like, I owned a lawn care business there for a while, and
Yeah.
we use these hydrostatic lawnmowers, big, powerful lawnmowers, and you get on these things, and each one of them you steer them differently, and you can easily. In fact, my brother does this. He freaks out. He gets up on one of these things and he just can't control it, and he like loses his mind. He freaks out. So it's like this. Meanwhile, I'm standing next to him, and I can operate and control that thing just fine, no problem. I can turn that thing on a dime. I can get within a half an inch of a wall and run it for 50 feet, where he freaks out. So it's just this little I think it's just it's this totally mental hurdle that people deal with um, when we're talking about creative finance. And it doesn't help that we have folks out here just giving just completely bogus and terrible advice about it. And so I guess I don't even know where I want to go with this. I just want to make the statement that stop listening to Facebook. Stop taking advice in Facebook groups. Let's talk to someone who actually knows what's going on, and you'll know the people when you finally find one. And if you're browsing the Facebook groups, you will find someone who just can speak clearly and can talk about it intelligently, and that's the person that you need to talk to about this. All right.
I
So,
like I like the first hurdle, especially with subject to deals. Like, okay, well, what if it gets due on sale? Okay, so we're talking a lot of hypothetical nonsense, right?
yep.
So everything is hypothetical until it actually happens.
Hmm.
So could the bank call the note due on sale? Sure. Is it likely to happen? Definitely not, unless you screw something up royally, typically with the insurance policy,
Yeah.
right? So again, that's very easy to handle if you know how to do it. Again, this is just a little. You do have to have a little bit of knowledge there with that, but again, the hypothetical is keeping you from getting getting the deal and doing something that's lucrative, that's A, going to help the seller out, and B, is going to be a great deal for you because you're getting, let's make it up, the sub two rates 4%, whatever, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's like, don't let hypothetical stuff get in the way of you moving forward. Are you going to need to maybe take the time, if you're not done sub two specifically, take the time to understand that and to make sure you do the insurance? Of course. Is the place to do that a Facebook group? Probably not. That's a good point. But that's why we have, if I can figure out where I don't know why that came up there. My mouse is not clicking very well. There, another plug for just the Sub 2 documents package. If you do nothing else and you just want to learn about some Sub 2 stuff, I mean, like $295 for all those. And again, we're not attorneys, but let's just say that's the documents we actually use in our actual business on a everyday basis that has never failed us yet. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yep. And by
So
the way, you always seem to miss this part, and it's the one thing that I always think about when I think about this package, because this is not just a package. This is actual. These are actual. This is a course. This thing.
yeah,
There's a you actually put this on. This is why I'm surprised that you forget about it, or maybe you don't forget about it, but you don't mention it. But yeah, this actually every single one of these documents can graciously walks you through every single one of these things and how to use it, what it's used for, um, and where it applies in the deal, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a really really good, really well put together package.
so well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
So on our hurdles, let's talk about another creative financing hurdle that keeps people from get right or
Hmm.
gets in their own way, right? You get in your own way sometimes. Why wouldn't the seller just list with an agent? And the answer to that is maybe they should. And by God, just tell them that.
Hmm.
I told I told a seller that a couple of months ago when we were looking at it, was like, hey, you know what? Here's kind of my number. And of course, remember, this is a no frills number. We'll close next week if you want. Like, that's the number. I said, but realistically, like, I'm just letting you know, if you list it with an agent, you could probably do better than that. I mean, even paying the commission and stuff, you could probably come out ahead. I don't know how much ahead, but it just depends on what you want out of the deal. Just be honest with people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really good point. And on the other side of that coin, though, too, um, if we're talking about honesty, there's these things I call brutal truths,
Yep.
and you know, if you're having that conversation with the seller, they must know if their house is in total disrepair, and um, you know, if one of the truths that I like to mention to sellers is like, hey, you're beyond a retail sale here. I mean,
Yeah. Yep.
you've just got to you can list it if you would like, but I think you're going to have problems selling this house. And there's just a certain point that a property gets to that uh, it's just it's just going to be really really tough to sell.
Yeah.
And there's no property, despite what anyone tells you, there is no property that you can't create some form of creative finance offer on. There isn't one that exists that you could not
Yep.
think creatively about and make a creative offer on. And in those situations, if you're going to have a property that's sitting for months and months on end because they can't list it, and make money. That's one of those scenarios. It's like, or they can't list it and at least like maybe pay off their mortgage. Um, it's one of those situations where creative financing can be extremely handy. We've bought deals that no that no quote cash buyer would
Yep.
even think about buying, and 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 we make money on them. It's and honestly, it's not like you said. We're not sending people to Mars here.
Right.
It's just a
Right.
matter of sitting down and penciling this out and figuring out using our calculator. That's exactly what our calculator is used for. And I mean, that's how I've made my living over the past 11 years, and it works. It's not a gimmick at all. So you just got to get out of this mindset um, that this can't work for you, because it definitely can, for sure.
And what you said there is so true. Like, be honest either direction. Like,
Yeah.
some properties are not meant for the MLS. Remember, the MLS 90+% of the time are retail properties.
Hmm.
They are not as is properties. You can find some in there. But don't get me wrong, they do exist.
Yeah, yeah.
But by and large, when someone's going to the MLS to look for properties, or you have an agent, they want move-in ready retail type properties, right?
Mhm.
So if you got an $80,000 rehab that's necessary on this property, then probably the MLS is not the spot for you, right? So it's a good point on both sides. Just be honest both ways with
Yeah,
them.
it's just a matter of time. It all boils down to time. If they've got the time uh, to list that property that probably is going to be harder to sell in the MLS, if they've got that time frame, go ahead and list it on the MLS. I mean, what have you got to lose? You can. It will probably sell. I think we know that. Um, Buying directly from sellers is like 1% of all the real estate transactions across this country. But what we do in this industry, literally buying and selling houses, is maybe 1% of all the real estate sales go to investors. Maybe. I'm talking single family here, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's pretty narrow. Yeah, and
Um,
that's a good question. I wonder what.
but yeah, I mean, if they have the time to put it on the MLS, by all means, go put it on the MLS, um, and just be honest with them about it. If they don't have the time to do it, if they purely just don't want to do it, maybe they don't want, maybe who knows the scenario. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're. I had one in particular was a hoarding situation. She didn't want anybody coming through the house, and I don't blame her one bit. And so she had all the time in the world, but she didn't want anybody coming through the house. She was ashamed of the way the condition of the property, and so we ended up buying that property. Um, Otherwise, I'd have told her to list it on the MLS because she had nothing but time. You
Right.
know, so
So just go back there. I just quickly Googled things. So it looks like about 30% of single family homes in the United States are purchased by non-owner occupants, quote unquote investors. So uh, that seems like a high number to me, actually.
Well, I mean,
So
you got to think non-owner occupants. That could
yeah,
be.
so that's mom and dad buying the house for their kid. That would technically qualify
Well, I'm
as.
talking about direct to seller
Yeah.
purchase.
Oh, yes, the creative financing piece of it. Yeah. What sliver of that 30% is the
Yeah.
that the direct seller financing piece? Yeah. No, I bet
Yeah,
you
that
would.
might be skewed as well because of all these institutional, about the iBuyers and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Because if a REIT buys it, then
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's technically an investor buying it. Yeah.
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 All right. What
Interesting.
else we
Very
got
interesting.
here? Let me take a look at these notes. I know we've got some notes here.
Well, and I think the third hurdle we've already talked about is the paperwork.
Hmm.
So a couple of things on that. We've already talked about, especially sub two has its own paperwork, and I'll go ahead and do a shameless plug again. We're like to show that this week. And the other piece of that though too is if you're not savvy in that, we've talked about this many times. Get some people on your team that know how to do things. The title company. Get a title company that will do subject to. Again, not every title company will do subject to deals. Just like not every title company deals with trust. Same type of thing. You got to find the right people that can help you out, right? And they can do the deal and they can do all this stuff, but you do need to get the property under contract. So in your purchase agreement, you need to make sure that you have a sub two deal, like you're taking this property in your purchase agreement subject to the deal letter. Like you should have that clause in there or be able to write it in to your purchase agreement. So just make sure that you have that in mind, right? Again, don't overthink it. Plain and simple. Or
Yeah.
if you're selling like our seller finance deal in the purchase agreement, we put the framework of what we agreed upon with the interest rate, the payments. It's going to have a 10-year balloon. We put that right in the purchase agreement. Now we're going to define that more in the promissory note and deed of trust, but it's okay to put that stuff right in there. That way you guys are on the same page right from the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, and you hit on a good point. You don't need to overthink this, but you do need to focus on this portion of it, and that is get talking to sellers, and that is getting contracts. Because without without either of those scenarios happening, you just simply you're going to fail at this if you don't have contracts. As I always say, contracts are your inventory, and if you have the contract, you control the deal. So um, contracts are very, very important. It just doesn't have to be complicated. You just need the contract. All right. Don't go in trying to explain everything away. Don't use technical or corporate jargon when you're talking to a seller. Just be, as we've stated, I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but be honest. Um, be honest in both the positive light and the negative. Give them the pros and cons,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and those
Don't have to
contracts.
kick them when they're down, but you do
Yep,
need to be
yep,
honest, right? Yeah.
yep, yep. The contracts will come if you have that attitude, for sure.
Yep. Yep. And always give options when you're talking with the sellers, right?
Yeah, good
Give
call.
options. Say, okay, here's a cash offer, for a flip, or here's, we can do this subject to. Here's what this looks like, right?
Yep.
Great. And don't get in the weeds because that's another thing sometimes I see too. So the guy in the Facebook making comments in the Facebook just went out and had AI, had Skynet tell him about subject to, right? So now he's an expert. So right, without one piece of paper to protect him about what that actually means. So yeah, just be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, I also want to say, don't. Some people are in this mindset that you're talking about flips. You're talking about the different types of exits. A lot of people think, I think mistakenly. Well, I know mistakenly. They think that in order to have a flip, like they have this process. You talk to the seller, you get it under contract, you negotiate the absolute lowest price you can, which is not a bad thing to do. But then you go and you have to try and find the financing for it to get the property purchased. That's not true. Financing is just financing. So whether it's a flip, if it's going to be a buy and hold for you, all of this can be done through by creative means. You don't have to follow these rules. And the example that I'm going to use is that guy I told you earlier that I was talking about. He for some reason it was stuck in his mind that he was going to flip. He was going to do a flip on this house. He was going to do the rehab and put it on the retail market. For some reason, he thought that he couldn't use subject to as a financing method on that. I don't know why. I didn't get into it with him to try and find out why, but for some reason that he thought that, I think he just probably, and this is me assuming, I think he just believed that that seller just wouldn't do the deal. That it sounded so crazy
Right.
that the seller wouldn't do the deal. But that is, I'm consistently shocked at how, how open people are to creative financing. It's just amazing. It's incredible, really, because it sounds crazy to all of us, unless it's we're in the business, so we're used to hearing about it. But just imagine if you were a seller and somebody approached you about this sort of different way of getting the deal done. And but I am convinced that people are, as long as you're honest and upfront and you do what you say you're going to do, people are very open to this. They're some of them will dismiss you, no doubt. They'll dismiss you right away. But a lot of them, you'll see their ears perk up. They'll be like, "Well, tell me more about this." And especially if, number one, it helps them. Number two, if it's they have the potential to maybe even make a little more money on it. So, yeah, I'm just always shocked by it. I'm shocked by people's own openness. And this particular one, the new build that we got on a contract yesterday, I mean, that's a prime example. Like you or I, we don't have a problem being open with the seller on this and saying, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. So this is the way our note needs to be structured. This is the way our deed of trust needs to be structured. We're going to turn around. We're going to sell or finance this to an end buyer. And he essentially becomes our investor. And it works out great. I mean, it's a win-win for everyone. He gets the terms that he likes. We get the terms that we like. A buyer gets a property. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. And just a pro tip there too, because I was telling you this the other day. Like, I think I was too open and too honest, which doesn't really happen very often, right? Because I talked to him and I said, hey, just by the way, just so you understand, we're going to move the property into a trust just because it's protection for us and all that stuff too. And then started asking some questions about that and all that. And I was like, okay, that really had no bearing in the grand scheme of life. That really had no bearing on him. We did the same thing on the other property, and it has nothing to do with anything from his perspective. But again, we just try to be as upfront. But there is, just pro tip, there is a line where maybe you're too open, and you don't need to be, or you don't need to go there unless a specific question is asked or the time comes when you're doing something that you want to disclose. So
yeah,
just
I wouldn't say you were too open about it. I think it just got too technical. Something that he wasn't used to, and wasn't used to seeing. Although it's a very normal thing every single day that properties are put into trusts all over this country, every single day, all the time.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand it, if a seller doesn't understand it, you either have to kind of bring the level down a little bit, without insulting them, but if they don't understand something, you're going to know right off the bat. You're going to know. They're going to look at you with that glazed look, like, "What are you talking about?" Like.
Yeah, I didn't want to. That scare him away or too. But
well, I mean, for him, I think it was a risk thing. It's like, oh, is this,
Oh yeah, like how is that going to impact him? Yeah, he just wants to hold the note and get paid, and he doesn't want anything to get in the way with that. So it was just like, from his perspective, okay, how's that going to impact me? Stop.
Right.
It's like, has nothing to do with anything from your side, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's all good. And last shameless plug we've left up there too. Again, it's really simple. Partner with us, especially like Sub 2, which has some logistics. We talk about the paperwork, whatever. That's what we do. That's what our students do pretty successfully. So we've had some good experiences with that we can help you with if you're so inclined to come over and kick the tires over here with us creative finance guys.
Yeah, we're kind of on a little bit of a tear right now too. Like,
yeah,
I'm just, I don't know what it is. I guess I'm in this mode now of, I'm in a buying mode. I just want to get out there and before the end of the year. I think I told you the other day.
Mm.
I that or well, maybe it wasn't the other day. It was a few weeks ago. But yeah, I'd like to have. Yeah, I like flips, man. I like doing flips. I don't know about anybody else. There's everyone. We have all the keyboard warriors out there saying, "Well, why would you want to do a flip and go through all that headache and when you can just flip the paper?" And like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like doing flips. It's fun. So so yeah, that's where we're at, or at least that's where I'm at.
yeah.
But
You just banking some money. Kind of got ebbs and flows. Like so,
yeah,
this is kind of us.
yep. Time to bolster up the bank account again, and so it's a great thing about this business is you can uh, you can kind of you have the best of both worlds. You can have the residual income if that's your goal, and you can if you need quick cash, you can wholesale. If you need larger cash sums, you can flip. There's just so many options with it. It's been a great business to be in.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, you got anything else?
Nope, that's a great note to end it on for this week. And next week we'll talk about creative financing. Unraveled for you today, hopefully a little bit. And so next week we're going to do more nuts and bolts. Next week, trusts versus LLCs. So
Oh,
stay tuned for
yeah.
that.
All right. I'm calling it then. You guys
All
take
right.
care. Have a great
Yep.
weekend, and